Big-time Hollywood movie mogul Harvey Weinstein went on Howard Stern's radio show this week where he suggested, yeah, the Oscars are coming out this week, but you ought to see what I have planned next. You ought to see the movie I have in the works. He told Howard Stern a little bit about it.
And I'm going to actually make a movie. I shouldn't say this, but I'll tell it to you, Howard. I'm going to make a movie with Meryl Streep, and we're going to take this issue head on. And they're going to wish they weren't alive after I'm done with them.
The issue he's talking about is gun control, and the people he says they're going to wish they're not alive after he's done with them is the NRA. Now, let's set aside, if we can, the obvious hypocrisy that they were talking about the Warsaw Ghetto uprising during World War II when he had this to say about whether or not he would want a gun.
This is when you're marching 500,000 people into Auschwitz.
Right.
I mean, whatever, I'd find a gun if that was happening to my people.
Right.
I don't think we need guns in this country. And I hate it, and I think the NRA is a disaster area.
I don't even know. I'd get a gun, but we don't need guns. It's too hard to process, so I'm going to bring in my friend S.E. Cupp for tonight's edition of Cain Cupp. I'm not going to ask you to parse the idea of whether or not he thinks he could get a gun, but we don't need guns. He'd have a gun if there was another Holocaust, but we don't need guns, and the NRAs are bad. I'm not going to ask you to do that. But tell me, should the NRA be quaking in their boots about his upcoming film with Meryl Streep?
No, for many reasons, no. If you take an example of an anti-gun propaganda film, Bowling for Columbine, that was the Michael Moore documentary that came out just after the Columbine shooting in 2002. That was actually wildly successful, both commercially and critically. It won an Oscar. Michael Moore did really well off of that film. Now, that said, it came out in 2002. In the years since, from 2002 on, gun sales are actually up over 50%. We know that by looking at gun background checks. NICS checks is one measure of seeing how many guns have been bought since then. Guns are up 50%. So even a successful, well-done, critically acclaimed documentary movie with facts in it was not able to move the needle on gun ownership. So the NRA shouldn't really be worried that what I have to assume starring Meryl Streep is a drama that probably won't be well done because these ideological Hollywood movies generally aren't. I don't think they have to be worried that their membership's going to go down or their gun ownership's going to go down.
What you have pointed out is that a successful movie had no effect on gun sales. What I would say to you is Bowling for Columbine is the outlier. The fact that it was successful drew some level of an audience to a blatantly political film. That never happens. I don't know if you remember, this was maybe back in the 90s, there was a film with Denzel Washington called John Q, where he took over a hospital because his son was hurt. He didn't have insurance. There's some footage from John Q we can show you there. Because he felt like his family had a right to health care. Therefore, he took over the entire hospital hostage. I think people died. The point was it was a blatantly political movie. Another recent one is Promised Land with Matt Damon about fracking, an anti-fracking movie. Our friend Charles Crook is sitting here at the table. He wrote today on National Review, please, Harvey Weinstein, pour your money into an anti-gun movie. Please make a blatantly political movie. It's destined to be a money suck.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, you also have to keep in mind, I'm going to assume that this is coming from some deep concern about gun crime that Harvey Weinstein has. I'll assume that. Even if that's the case, you know, gangbangers in Chicago are not motivated by the NRA. The NRA doesn't represent them. The NRA represents law-abiding gun owners. The NRA, by the way, doesn't even represent gun manufacturers, if that's Harvey's enemy. The NSSF does. So the people that he would target in taking down the NRA are law-abiding gun owners, not the people whom I assume he would blame for the rise in gun crime in cities like Chicago and New York and Detroit. So once again, this is a Hollywood blowhard who doesn't have his facts, who doesn't understand gun control or gun issues, trying to make an ideological masterpiece that's probably going to fall flat.
And apparently doesn't understand how to make commercial successes out of movies, because what you just pointed out is the people he would be targeting would be his potential audience. I can't imagine that's a movie he would greenlight. S.E., thanks for being with us.
Thanks.